And I will. Well, thank you and good morning. Thank you for the extra 5 minutes. I am Representative Emma Greenman, and I serve South Minneapolis. I also had 4 great years on the Veterans Committee, and I'm very, very proud to carry this veteran claim shark bill ban that we heard today. We just finished up committee where the bill passed out of the House Veteran Services Committee and now is on its way to Judiciary. For folks who haven't been following this bill, this is one of the many bills that we are working on to ensure that we are protecting Minnesotans, in this case, our veterans who have served this country admirably, to protect our veterans from claim sharks, from this insidious business model that targets veterans usually at their most vulnerable times and takes a fee out of benefits and the benefits being provided that our county veteran service officers, our veterans organizations, and MDVA provide for free. This is a problem in this state. It's a problem across the country, and it is a problem that has exploded since the PAC Act was passed. Well, there was an expansion of benefits, a really important expansion of benefits under federal law. What we saw was an opportunity for fraudsters who have targeted veterans, who have excessively marketed veterans and approached them about getting part of their benefits or paying an upfront fee to provide a service that they legally under federal law cannot provide. All this bill does, and you're going to hear more about the problem, but I want to just talk about all this bill does. It is a modest solution that says if you want to do that, if you want to serve veterans, you have to be accredited by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, and you need to have a fee agreement. You need to have something that's transparent with that veteran. And it gives veterans the ability to use the same consumer protections that we have for other members of our community. And so with that, I think I will turn it over to many of the men and women who are serving our veterans as veteran service organizations. I will say that this bill is a top priority of the Commander's Task Force, as well as the administration, as well as the DFL caucus. It is a bill that has gotten bipartisan support and got a bipartisan vote out of committee today, and I look forward to hearing more from the men and women who serve our vets. And with that, I think I will turn it over to Dr. Christy Janico. Let me say one more thing about Dr. Christy Janico. This bill was brought to me about a year ago. She has been working tirelessly, all of you have. But I will say that Christy's leadership on this issue, having had the experience of serving vets who have been ripped off by this predatory practice, has driven her and so many others into this work. And it is with that intention and purpose that we will pass this bill this year. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. We're here today to ensure that veterans get the support and benefits they've earned and to protect veterans from fraudulent and abusive practices of unaccredited parties profiting off veteran benefits known as claims sharks. My name is Dr. Christy Janigo. I'm the legislative chair of the American Legion Department of Minnesota and the Association of County Veteran Service Officers. For my day job, I'm an assistant county veteran service officer where I help some of the state's most vulnerable veterans find housing, navigate their involvement with the justice system, and access life-changing veteran benefits. I want to thank Representative Greenman for more than a year ago believing in the ideas that led to HF 1855, that veterans should not be defrauded in the process of accessing VA benefits earned with deep sacrifices of themselves and of their families during military service. I also want to thank the co-chairs Bliss and Zhang for giving us the hearing in the House Veterans Subdivision just now, and the co-authors who are also here in attendance, including Representative Bonner. A shout out to Senator Putnam, the author of SF 1894, the Senate Companion, and I also want to acknowledge all my colleagues behind me from the Commander's Task Force, consisting of 8 congressionally chartered veteran service organizations. Especially the Legion, the DAV, and the VFW have been very vocal about this issue for years. But all 8 organizations are in lockstep of their support of this bill. As we get started, I would submit that this year, the contents of this bill are the most important veteran issue in the Minnesota legislature, this biennium and maybe well beyond. We must deal with the issue of fraud perpetrated against veterans because the federal government has not. States such as New Jersey, New York, and Maine have passed laws to curb fraudulent activity on veteran benefits matters. We would love for Minnesota to be the fourth state, and it makes sense for a state that has long prided itself on strong consumer protection for seniors, vulnerable adults, and veterans. The PACT Act of 2022 was a federal law that expanded VA health care and benefits for veterans exposed to burn pits, Agent Orange, and other toxic substances. It was the largest expansion of VA benefits in modern history, resulting in approximately $1.8 billion in new benefits awards, and it's still ongoing. This has been a game changer for veterans who had been trying for years to access their benefits. With that expansion came a proliferation of private businesses and individuals looking to profit in the absence of meaningful penalties for breaking the law that prohibits anyone from charging a veteran for representation on an initial VA claim, including consultation or advising, which is what some of the bad actors call their services. The federal and state government have already been working diligently to make veterans aware of these schemes, including the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, the state Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs, and AG Keith Ellison's office. Some of the shady practices veterans are being warned about include being asked to sign documents to agree to unreasonable fees that amount to thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, or even a certain percentage of their benefits for the rest of their life. Being asked to disclose login information for their VA benefits and health account to individuals or a business. Being asked for direct deposit information. Promises of high ratings or that a business or individual can get a faster result than accredited agents. Sending veterans to private health care providers for public disability questionnaires and medical opinions while asking them to avoid exams from VA providers. Submitting an intent to file to establish an effective date, and then holding on to the VA benefits claim for months, as close to the year deadline as possible, before filing the claim itself to maximize the back pay out of which the individual or business will be paid. We are asking those who intend to represent veterans on VA benefits matters to earn accreditation through the VA, so they're listed publicly on the VA Office of General Counsel website as an attorney, a claims agent, or a VSO representative, so there is accountability and a process for revocation if an individual or a business is found to be unethical. Other elements of accountability are the prohibition of guarantees and a path for lawsuits to discover damages when veterans are harmed. Veterans can receive representation on veteran benefits matters for free through county veteran service officers in all 87 Minnesota counties, Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs claims representatives, and service officers of the Legion, Disabled American Veterans, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and other veteran service organizations. Earlier in the hearing, some insinuated that people who do veteran benefits claims for free are untrained lay people and not qualified to represent veterans on claims, but that is simply false. We have many rigorous training requirements and are steeped in exposure to the work, awareness of VA procedures in the M21, and the 38 Code of Federal Regulations. My initial eligibility to do this work was my own lived experience as a veteran and having a DD 214. I have 5 VA accreditations: the American Legion, the DAV, the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs, the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers, and the Veterans of Foreign War. Those of us who do this work at no cost to veterans are not motivated by profits. It is a calling for many of us. To be good at this job, you have to have a keen interest in people and their stories. Veteran stories are sacred to me. I retell them to the federal government in the form of a lot of paperwork in pursuit of life-changing benefits for veterans who are down on their luck in every way conceivable. I explain to others in shorthand that my job is keeping veterans alive, under roofs, and out of jail, and I'm not exaggerating that point. It is simply the reality of assisting homeless and justice-involved veterans on their claims. I've also gotten increasingly involved in claims dealing with military sexual trauma, mental health claims with past suicide attempts or even current suicidal ideation, and claims for veterans who are experiencing cognitive decline due to age, traumatic brain injury, or other conditions. These types of claims take a high level of sensitivity, cultural competency, a trauma-informed mindset, kindness, and compassion. And not everyone can do that. I've gone to some interesting places to work with veterans on their claims: the Union Gospel Mission Men's Shelter, the Hennepin County Jail, domestic violence shelters, short-term stay hotels, veterans' homes, and the streets. I love this work. CVSOs will walk with a veteran on the journey of their claim. We also help veterans in need apply for emergency funding through the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs or VSO programs such as the Minnesota Veterans and Family Assistance Fund with the American Legion Department of Minnesota. I do not just file a claim and walk away. I surround the veteran with supports for as long as they need it and until I exhaust all the possibilities. I recognize that some veterans choose to pay an attorney or a claims representative for a certain result, but what bothers me is when vulnerable veterans sign up to pay these fees. I've worked with homeless veterans who signed a contract with a private attorney, and in my opinion, it is not ethical for someone to profit off of a homeless veteran. This bill won't completely solve that, but it may help. Another thing that gets in the way of my work is the distortion of facts that are created by aggressive advertising online and other platforms that have misled veterans and sown misinformation. Just this weekend, I did a Google search about veterans' benefits, and directly afterwards, when I scrolled Facebook, I saw 8 advertisements from parties seeking to charge me for assistance with my benefits, asking me if my rating was too low. And so there's no surprise that in this work, I've had to debunk misinformation that claim sharks have perpetuated about the speed of claims, with veterans believing an attorney or a private business could get them through it faster and to a 100% rating. That is unequivocally false. No matter who represents a veteran on federal benefits matters, it's not possible to speed up the VA or guarantee a 100% rating. And I think that's the end of what I have to say, and at this time I would like to invite my friend Butch Whitehead forward, the adjutant for the Disabled American Veterans Department of Minnesota. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. And I want to echo Dr. Janico's point and thank you to representatives on both sides for moving this bill forward. Today was a great step in the right direction. My name is, I'll let you know who I am. My name is Stephen Whitehead. I'm the state adjutant for the Disabled American Veterans. And as Dr. Janico said, we're proud to be locked in step with all 8 charter organizations, as well as the Minnesota County Veteran Service Officers, because this is very important for all of our organizations to speak up on behalf of our vulnerable veterans. Our veterans are being contacted daily and sometimes multiple times by these fraudulent attorneys and organizations out there trying to take advantage of these vulnerable veterans that are just trying to make it through the day, trying to make it through their life with challenges, and making promises that is false. I mean, these attorneys, these organizations that are making these promises are way out of bounds. For the end of the fact is the only organization that can promise and make these commitments is the Federal Veterans Affairs. They're the decision makers when it comes to what a veteran is able to receive for the disability. So today, this bill here today, House File 1855, gets us going in the right direction. I really appreciate that for the fact of we now are going after these fraudulent people to make them be accredited. Now, as Dr. Janico said and the representative said, if a veteran chooses to hire an attorney, let's be transparent. Make sure that that attorney is, first of all, accredited, so that they're getting the appropriate representation before the Veterans Affairs. Second of all, being transparent on what their fees are going to be, and not taking advantage of these veterans when it comes to maximizing the amount that these attorneys can charge these veterans. At the end of the day, it should be I think there should be a cap of what these accredited attorneys can charge these veterans, knowing that there's free services that are being offered to these veterans that are going to get to the same point if the evidence supported their benefits. But as we just testified today to the committee is there are organizations and attorneys out there, and I really appreciated the comment that they made or the analogy that let's throw these spaghetti noodles up against the wall and see what sticks. So some of these organizations are making a long list of what they think this veteran may be eligible for, filing the claim, and maybe getting 1, 2 out of the dozens that they smiled. Oh, it's a success. You owe us this kind of money. and it might be getting that person to 10%. And now they're charging that person $4,000, $6,000, sometimes $12,000, $15,000. When at the end of the day, they could have got that same rating, same timeline through a free service and not having to pay. So Minnesota, thank you. Thank you for taking the right steps to getting and protecting our vulnerable veterans from these fraudulent individuals out there. And let's be true, let's be honest. These organizations are not just here in Minnesota. They're coming from all across the country. I was contacted just yesterday by a law firm out of Rhode Island. So these law firms, these organizations are seeing this. They see the doors open for them to come in and take advantage of it. In Minnesota, we're taking the right steps to protect our vulnerable veterans, so thank you for that. With that, I think I'm turning it over to our VFW counterparts. Barry, thank you.
Thanks, Butch. Thanks, Christine. Thank you, Representative. The Veterans of Foreign Wars is proud to be a part of this. This is the Commander's Task Force, but not only from the Commander's Task Force, the Veterans of Foreign Wars has been leading this charge nationally, and other states have passed laws. 9 states have passed laws in different forms. It is critical that we keep this going, and we look forward to hearings in the judiciary. Our veterans cannot be taken advantage of. We have qualified people to take care of these claims for no charge. If they decide to go outside of that, we need to have laws in place that protect the veterans and their families. They're vulnerable. We talk about mental health. We talk about 22 veterans taking their lives every day. These are the kind of reasons why when they're taken advantage of. This cannot happen. We need to pass this legislation and take care of our veterans, and we look forward to the next step in this to bring this to a resolve. Thank you. Oh, and I will say, I'm sorry, we have our claims director, John Goen, who does this on a day-to-day basis.
Good morning. I am John Goen. I'm the director of the Veterans of Foreign Wars Claims Office and the Departmental Service Officer. The Veterans of Foreign Wars has been fighting fights for veterans for over a century. We like to say we've been around longer than the VA, as we have. Make no mistake, we are not here to degrade attorneys who maintain and obtain the proper accreditation for the Department of Veterans Affairs to do what they do. We're here to oppose those individuals who take advantage of the individuals who served their country, fought for all of our rights, earned their benefits, and like others have said, when in a vulnerable state and they don't know where to turn to because our advertising for our services is terrible, and many others too, when they finally are able to find representation that they deserve, most of the time through word of mouth, they tell tales of how many years that they had to fight this. Now, with these predatory, and within that, we're able to most likely get things resolved in a quick manner with optimal results, because we have access to all their federal records, ergo, we're able to represent them more effectively. These individuals that charge upfront fees, and I've got numerous contracts for many of these, Trajector, Veterans Guardian, all of these others. Some of these contracts will state that they have to pay an upfront fee of $2,000, and upon resolution of their claim, those individuals will keep, well, they won't keep, because they legally can't do that. They will charge them up to 5 months worth of a retroactive payment, equating to no more than $15,000 of money that belongs to the individuals who serve this country honorably, not to line the pockets of predatory players. We stand with this bill, and we hope that Minnesota can do the right thing in protecting the veterans who have given so much for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, if anyone has any questions? Yes.
And I guess anybody could answer this, but you had said that they are basically, these companies are requiring fees and providing a service that they legally under federal law cannot provide. So if that's the case, then why is something like this necessary if it is illegal for these companies to claim that they can process VA benefits when they can. Am I misunderstanding something?
No, and I'm going to take a crack at that and then turn it over to Dr. Janigo. So what we see happening, and there's a few different things. There's what we heard in committee. There's the conversations about lawyers and lawyers being accredited. That's not the issue we're talking about. Here what we're talking about is companies like we heard today in committee whose business model is, they will say it is not, and what are my 3 Ps? They are preparing. Yeah, so but the law says you cannot charge a fee for preparing, prosecuting, and there's another P, a claim. And what these folks are doing is saying, oh, we're not preparing those claims. We are consulting or advising. The veteran themselves has to submit the form. The veteran themselves has to take any responsibility for incorrections or errors or if they're submitting fraudulent claims. Now, I think, and what I have heard from both the administration and many of the folks who do this work, is that consulting and advising is absolutely a violation of the spirit of the law and likely the letter of the regulation, but there are no penalties in the law for it. And so these business models, what we heard is somebody, I can't remember who it was, said we can't legalize and normalize this model. Now, like the folks we heard today are out-of-state companies with no employees in Minnesota who are trying to legalize and normalize a model of consulting. Now, I think that this is one of the things that is, I'm sure, crazy-making to you all, is that why would somebody pay somebody to help them do, if they have to do their own paperwork, they have to set up all of the things they've set up, and if they need help, there's somebody legally who can provide that service for free in many different places. And so the question of why is the same thing we ask in a lot of these predatory models that are going after people after we have an expansion of government benefits all over. And they usually, it's about marketing and advertising to people who are desperate to get these benefits. And the reality is that the VA needs to do better. The federal VA needs to do better. I think everybody would agree that it is terrible for our veterans that it takes time, resources, a labyrinth of paperwork and people that have to help you get through that. But that's the current state of the federal administration, and we can't change that. What we can do is ensure that people get accurate, trusted, accredited support that can take them all the way through the claims. What these companies are doing is intervening at the very beginning and targeting people who are desperate to get a result, and they're making false promises, and they shouldn't be doing it at all, but they're making false promises. And what this bill does is say, you have to be accredited, which makes clear the law and also makes them transparent and accountable to the veterans, to the U.S. VA, and also the public. And I don't know if there's anything I missed on that. But
You got it all. Anyone else, John?
If I can,
Yeah,
Representative. So my name is John Baker. I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota Association of County Veteran Service Officers. I'm a retired Marine and also an attorney. So to your question on what's at the federal level for this, this is one of the reasons there is no teeth to the federal law for anyone who violates this. There actually was a bill in Congress the last couple sessions that did not get passed in the last session. There were competing bills. We have supported and lobbied for, I don't remember which, the GUARD Act is what it was called at the federal level. We're working on getting that going again in this Congress. But to fill the gap, we are looking, in states around the United States are looking to fill this gap to prevent fraud against our veterans in Minnesota. I actually call this the Veteran Anti-Fraud Claim Bill, because this is really what it is. This is fraud being committed against our veterans. I'll just tell one quick story. I had a CVSO in southern Minnesota reach out to me last week and talk about a recently widowed widower of a Korea War era veteran that he had just passed away, and a qualified veteran. He is eligible for burial in a state cemetery as well as Fort Snelling. And there's all kinds of other benefits that are available to that spouse for free. She was approached by a shark And so when we think about these sharks and not just veterans benefits, it's for burial benefits, it's for the GI Bill. But she was approached by one of these claim sharks and said, if you pay us a certain amount of money, we will take care of everything for your husband. Whereas a CVSO in that county will do the very same thing for free. Thank you.
So what are the penalties for violation and who is the enforcer?
Of this bill?
Yes.
So there's a few different ways. One, we want to prevent this, and that's what accreditation is about. We hear a lot of folks saying, you know, this is bad and we should deal with the bad actors, but what we are talking about in this committee, in this state, in this House, is we actually want to prevent the fraud so this doesn't happen to people. And that's why accreditation is so important, because what it means is anybody who wants to have these conversations with veterans, anyone who wants to charge a fee for doing this work, have to go through the training, have to go through the accreditation, and are visible and transparent to the public. So to me, and to the veterans and their families and the department, to me, that is the number one most important thing to prevent the fraud before it happens. But if it happens, or let's say you're unaccredited under this law, which would be illegal, the law also adds consumer protections, the same kinds of consumer protection laws. It actually writes in the same remedies. So lawsuits, injunctions if you need one to stop folks from practicing, compensation, the same way we would treat other types of consumer fraud. Would now mean that victims of this, their families, could pursue those remedies.
So the Attorney General's office would be the place where you would go if you were seeking such a claim against these sharks?
Or on your own, or as a private, like our consumer law, or consumer protection laws, we want to make sure that people have an individual private right of action to protect themselves. So yes, the Attorney General could, but also there's private right of action under our consumer protection laws.
Representative, the companion bill in the Senate was amended to remove the accreditation piece in the committee. Do you have confidence that you can get something with the accreditation piece passed through both chambers this session?
I do, because I think that the accreditation piece and what I'm hearing from the folks behind me, what I hear from the department, what I hear, and I think I have heard from every person who is working directly as accredited members of this community, is the accreditation piece is actually the linchpin of the bill. We don't want to just give people the ability to remedy something once they get screwed. We want to stop them from being screwed. And that's what the accreditation does. It says you have to have the same accreditation that everybody else who's serving veterans. It's something that the U.S. government puts together. You are visible and transparent to both the federal government, the state government, and that there are standards. It also means, and we heard this in committee, if a fraudulent claim gets submitted, if you're with one of these claim sharks, the only person on the hook for that is the veteran, even if maybe they didn't know that was happening, right? But in this case, if you have someone who's accredited, they have the same duties and fiduciary duties to that veteran, and so they're on the hook too. And that's really important, because you want the people who are doing this work. The last thing I will say is when you get accredited, and they can speak to this much better than I can, you actually have the tools to help the veteran. So when you are accredited, you get the access to the claims database. You can track, and I think I've heard Dr. Janago say, you submit the claims and then you babysit them. You go in and you check on how they're going. When you're not accredited, when many of these companies that are already violating the law, they don't have that access, so they can't. And I had a conversation with one of them yesterday. We can't do anything after the claim is filed. All they can see is what the veteran sees. And so that's why accreditation is so critical to this bill.
Are you confident your Senate colleagues will add that back in or consider it if your bill makes it over to the Senate side?
I hope so, and I am not in the Minnesota Senate. What I do know is that in this body, there is a long place between now and then. Also, in the House, we have been having a different conversation about preventing fraud and protecting Minnesotans and taxpayer dollars from fraud. I sit on the Fraud Prevention and Government Oversight Committee. The Senate doesn't have that. every Monday morning at 8:15. Many of you should come join us. We spend an hour and a half talking about it. And this morning, or this Monday, Superintendent Drew Evans from the BCA showed a graph about how fraud is expanding everywhere, targeting seniors, targeting veterans, targeting consumers, and also making government the mark. And let us remember that this is absolutely a fraud on our vulnerable veterans. It's also a fraud on taxpayers, because taxpayers are paying to ensure that the veterans who earned these benefits, who served our country, get everything that they need and deserve and earned. And we are also paying to ensure that there are men and women, accredited men and women, who can help them do that. And when these companies come in and take some of those benefits that we all decided should go to families and the veterans who served, and seep them off, steal them for profit, that is a fraud in two ways. And so I'm hoping that the conversation we're having about fraud here in the House and preventing it and protecting these benefits and the people who earn them and who need them, that is enough, and we can have that conversation with our Senate colleagues, and that they'll come along with us for fighting this fraud on our veterans. Great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate you all. Thank you.